All right, so the idea I have that I was going to talk about tonight that you may have guessed is actually about this. The question is, or actually I should start with the problem. The problem I've experienced in starting two companies is how do you find people that are not only have the skill sets that you're interested in that are sort of complement your own in terms of creating that founding team, but also are interested in the same problems or the same solutions that you are. So there's a little bit of background about this. My first company was in the sports vertical. It was a recruiting system that helped amateur athletes market their talents to collegiate recruiters. I played college football. You'll notice a sports team in here. And had gone through this process and found it to be just entirely ridiculous in how inefficient it was. And the product I wanted to build was this thing that would make it a lot easier. Well, that's all great, except that I'm not a software engineer and don't actually know how to build that kind of thing. I could conceive of it, but couldn't actually build it. So when I first got started, it was this thing, well, okay, sounds cool, Trevor. How do you actually go out and do this? So I went out looking for either a guy that could be a member of that founding team, or actually what we ended up doing was outsourcing it to this third-party company. I've since found out that's not the model. I won't bore you with the details, but it was a very, very, difficult experience going that way. So really the problem that I see out in the market is how do you find the right guy or girl to, kind of partner up with and allow these founding teams to flourish. You hear a ton of talk about, there's a gazillion startup resources out there, but most of them, if you actually look at the details, they only start once you have that founding team. And, so I'm thinking of like the Y Combinators of the world. They're willing to get in at the earliest stage of either investment or before you have a product or, certainly before you have product market fit or any of these other things. But it all is predicated on you having that founding team. And, there's a lot of smart people out there that have interesting ideas, but they haven't yet gotten that team. And to me, it's kind of like this, we don't really even have a word for it or a concept for it. It's like, what do you even call the person that had an idea, but they haven't yet formed a team or haven't decided that they're going to start a company, so they're not really, kind of serious about it yet. I mean, we would call an entrepreneur somebody that's decided to start a company, but what do you call it before that? Like, we don't even have a word for it. Like prepreneur, I mean, the concept doesn't exist. So what I think is sort of a necessary thing is, and the idea that I have is that, is there or could we create a system that kind of keeps track of people, their talents, so not like what your job is or what your title is or any of that stuff, but what you can actually do, and also what they're interested in. So what I'd hope to do is actually blend that into part of this and, see if there's a way that we can make this either, search-based or something that can connect to Facebook or LinkedIn or something like that, where it would be easier to find other people to work with so that you could actually go from, idea to starting a company and actually doing something with it. So that's my idea. If anybody has any thoughts, I'd love to hear them.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, just you can shout them out, you can raise your hand and do whatever.
Are you thinking about recommending? Like you put in your idea and you said, I've got this idea, but I need an engineer, I need a business dev guy, and it makes recommendations for those?
That could be a way to do it. I built part of this. It's so basic, it's not even funny. I'm just embarrassed about it. But it's it's like a simple form on Wufoo. I don't know if you know what Wufoo is. Okay. So for those that don't, it's a really simple form builder that allows you to fill out a couple, it's not even code based. You're just, creating questions that people can answer and it saves it to a database. So it asks you, I think, 7 questions of what you know how to do. Like, can you code? Can you sell? Can you raise money, pitch? I can recruit people, whatever it is, and kind of how good you are at it, from not at all to I'm a master. And so it's kind of like the skill set part of it, but it doesn't have anything with the idea part yet. I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate that. One of my ideas, and why the video camera's on, is what I thought we could do is actually video this, put it on the blog, and that way everybody who was here, plus anybody who wasn't, who might be interested in these things, can be like, oh, I think that's a cool idea too. And that way they can get in touch with people and kind of take it from there and see what happens. But I mean, it could take any form. It's just one of the, I think the two things need to go together. You need to have both the skill set and the interest, because, you know, I could find a great engineer, but, you know, if they're not interested in what I'm interested in, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, they're not gonna work. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think it's a cool idea because I think we've all probably run into the same situation before.
Mhm.
We've all got ideas, probably why we're all here,
Right.
but it's really hard to find the match. I mean, we all miss something, and it's really
Sure.
hard to find somebody who is gonna really be interested in work on the idea.
Right.
So I think there's definitely a need for it. I'd use it.
Sure. Cool.
How about building a community?
Yeah.
Not necessarily like a networking site, but some sort of. One example, and I come from the coding side, is Stack Overflow, which is where you just ask questions. It's a little different format, but the idea is.
Format?
Yeah, it's kind of like it's not exactly a bulletin board, but you can just throw up your idea. You can throw up a question, a coding question, and people answer it. But it's a loose community. It's not specifically like a login like a Facebook. It's like you can have a login, but primarily it's functional. It's like, okay, you have a coding question, people jump on it, and they get points or whatever, and get ranked. But just some sort of community or something where you can gather, but it's not strictly like, say, a LinkedIn or a Facebook. Just an idea. I mean, it sounds like you want a bunch of people together to kick ideas around and
Sure.
match up. And it seems like it doesn't have to be like
almost
a
like,
heavy,
I mean, this is going to be sounding like a silly example, but almost like a Match.com for
Yes.
entrepreneurship.
I like that.
I mean, again, it sounds ridiculous, but
entrepreneur.
you know,
or,
the relationship's very similar, right? I mean, it's like you wouldn't try to find a spouse in a bar. I mean, I don't feel like you should try to find a co-founder at a bar.
It's like founder dating.
Well, that's the thing. Is that all these events are like that, and you go to them, and I don't know. Like, I've come away. I feel like the girl that was at the bar and didn't see what you wanted, right? Or something like that. It sounds silly.
Yeah.
But that's been my experience, and I think there needs to be something a little deeper.
Yeah. I think
So
there's-
you ready to go down? You ready to go down that rabbit hole then?
I mean, well, at least for a couple of the other concepts I'm working on, there's, that's what we're trying to do.
So Weedle has done what you want to do.
Really?
WEEDLE. Yeah.
Okay.
.com.
Weedle.
Yep. There's another group that's working on a personality match for startups, and they are called. Who's doing it? Damn it! It's out of the startup. It's out of the startup community.
No, I was gonna say
They
something.
have. All right. Now, the particular problem that you're talking about, and that Weedle solved what you're talking about, is they could do a lot more. They kind of missed the boat on it. Because it turns out that what Weedle is doing is like, it's sort of like a job title and the skill set,
Right.
and then a couple other things. And then what they do is they throw that on their website and they SEO it. Okay,
Okay.
so that you're going to come up in a search or something like that.
I got you.
Right. But the way that I think it ought to be done is that you take the entire job description
Right.
as a task description, okay? And you wrap it in a piece of semantic HTML so that when Google sees it or search engine sees it, it knows that this is a task description.
So
Okay,
is it
from
more
there-
like looking for someone as a job, or is it more looking
It's
for
like taking
a,
the whole thing that you did, whatever it is you did, okay, and breaking it down, and you put that in an envelope, okay?
Okay.
And when the search engine sees it, it sees the envelope, and then it knows what kind of stuff is in the envelope. Then it takes it out of the envelope, and then it reads all that stuff in there. So they can sort all the envelopes, right? So recipes do this,
Right.
calendar events do this, contact info does this.
Mhm.
So if you Google and see your contact info that's wrapped like this, and it knows how to display, that's just contact info, or that's a recipe.
Right.
They do it in a specialized way. So what this means is that you can write your own crawler for it. All right. Now,
So is this something that's like your average consumer?
this is
can do,
something
or
I've
do
been
you have
wanting
to
to
be
build
like?
for like a couple of years, but I haven't.
Well, so my question is this something that, like, let's say you're not a power Google user or something like that. Is this something that, like, your average citizen can figure
It
out?
comes out of your form.
Okay.
You set your form up so that it admits this on the back end. The user never sees it. The user just answers the questions.
Okay.
Okay, what you do on the back end, the coder on the back end takes care of all the stuff that the search.
So I'm saying, like, in terms of the actual product itself, in terms of, it's called scale of 1 to 10. How hard is it technically?
I could do it in a month.
Well, you could, but my
Full-
question is like,
full-time.
that's what I'm saying. Like, you could, but like, could my grandmother do this?
A good coder can do it in a week. You get a good Ruby coder, I can do
My
it.
grandmother's not a Ruby coder. I'm
Well,
saying, like,
your grandmother's not going to code it.
Like,
well, that's what I'm saying. Is this something like like sort of think like an average consumer? Could they
Yeah,
figure this
anybody
out?
could use it. It's just answer questions. just answer questions.
Okay.
What was the job description? Who did you report to?
No,
Who benefited?
that's my time.
Yeah. But you have to go deeper. It's like who benefited, why it was important, things like that.
Okay. Cool. That's all great feedback.
So why don't they just fill out a match profile, like as what they want to do
For
for their
like,
talents? They put their profile, their
this
stats,
could be right hand in
and
hand
then
with
they
that.
just write out like paragraphs about
So-
what they're interested in and what they want to do and their
I don't
vision.
want to cut you off.
Oh,
I do
sorry.
want to get this, but
We can talk
that was my
later.
time. So
Okay.
we need to move on to the next one.
Sure.
But here's what we're going to do. This is going to be on video. It's going to be on the blog. So if you're interested in this thing, there's going to be ways to comment on it. We can all sort of follow up on it after the fact. And
Cool.
what I'm hoping happens is this community evolves and we can kind of do something with it. So the question becomes, who's the guinea pig and who's next?
I was actually gonna pitch that, so.